Hi, welcome back everybody. It's Mike Newton down here at Lytham Golf Academy. I've got an iron head-to-head video for you today. We're just in the release of the new Titleist range in the T series, and I've got the T300, and I'm going to put it up the one it's actually replaced, which is the AP1. So 2 game improvement irons from Titleist. We're going to test them as we always would do. GC quad on the floor. We'll show you some results and my personal feedback on the feel, the looks and the performance of these 2 clubs. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the 718 AP1 iron. So as I say, this is Titleist more game improvement iron, big chunky head, thick top line, some offset here. We're looking at ultimate forgiveness and distance. Maybe for the golfer, that mid to high handicap who's looking for obviously that forgiveness and that added extra yardage. So this is 7 iron, it's lofting at 31 degrees of loft. So it is a little bit more loft than the new T300, which we'll talk a little bit more about as the video goes on. We'll get the first one hit with the AP1. Yeah, and a lovely sort of high towering flight. It's a very sort of loudish crack to that. We've got this sort of hollowed out back section in the cavity, which I think would create a little bit of louder acoustics with the noise sort of rattling around in there. So it does give that sort of louder, maybe that hollowy sort of feel, sound to it as you strike it. Okay, so that's just testing a little bit of forgiveness there, a little bit low in that heel strike. Accuracy wise good, and still, hello, oof, accuracy very good there, but still getting his desired distance. So this is, as we'd expect, this type of iron AP1 or the T300, most forgiving, you're going to get those better results on those real sort of mishits. Better strike, just a little bit pulley on that particular shot. You catch that left edge of the green. Yeah, it just goes a little bit long, as we know, on those little pulls. So look-wise, down by the golf ball, as we expect, it's that large profile. It's that medium sort of thick top edge, quite a long blade length from that heel to the toe section, quite a bit of offset. So it's very confident, inspiring as you put that down by the golf ball. Again, really nice, high towering flight. No issues of getting this ball launched with that low CG in the head. He's definitely going to get that ball popping up in that air and get it launching pretty quickly. Okay, so we're just going to hit one more shot with AP1, then we'll switch into the T300. Again, just slightly up that left-hand side. This is where I think an offset for me tends to feel like I can hit more of that left shot. That's absolutely flown out there. I mean, that was a really good strike, and maybe the only issue for me with more game improvement irons, you can get some slightly fierier shots there, and that has definitely carried a little bit further, albeit I have pulled that fraction, a little bit of draw there, so it tends to go a little bit further as well. Okay, so that's the 7 iron, it's lofting at 31 degrees, that's the AP1. Let's switch the same shaft into T300 and we'll see how that stacks up against it. Right, okay, so we've now got the T300 head on there. So very different look from the back. We've got that sort of polymer, that max impact. Looks like a badge in a way that's sort of stuck in the back of it. So maybe aesthetically it doesn't look great from the back of the iron, but obviously you don't see any of that as you present it down by the golf ball. As you do present down by the golf ball, I think the looks and the shaping, albeit still on that larger side, as you'd expect, it's more like game improvement iron, but definitely a better shape in there. Not quite as aggressive on the offset. There's still some offset there, but not quite as much as AP1, which is a big box tick for me. Still medium thick top line and pretty long blade length. So it's still very confidence inspiring behind the golf ball, but I think just a better shaped head, I would say. Okay, so again, 7 iron here, but we are now 29 degrees of loft, so it's a good 2 degrees stronger on the loft against AP1, so should expect some differences of a little bit more ball speed because of a stronger loft, and also less spin. So in theory, we should expect to see more distance through this because of the loft change. I know Titleist will talk a lot about speed off the club face. They've improved it, as with all companies do on new launches, but let's have a look at this first one. Wow, I hit that really well. And that's flown really high. No difference really visually on that height of it. And that's come out pretty well and looked to be stopping pretty quick there actually on that first shot. So that's spun at 6,600. That's a big spin number there for a 29-degree loft. I did strike that absolutely beautiful. Again, first instinct there, that is much higher. We're 2 degrees stronger than the loft, so that should not come out lower. Should not come out higher in theory, but that is coming out pretty high. Again, that's pretty much flown the green. That's a big hit. Okay, that wasn't quite solid. A touch toe, but again, very straight coming out. Pretty high in its flight. Should drop a little bit, but not massively. Again, it looks to be stopping pretty quick. Stopping power on that looks to be pretty impressive for a 29-degree lofted 7 iron. Now, sound-wise there, we can see it's, oh, you might not be able to hear this, but I can hear it here. It's still pretty clicky, but it's not quite as loud as AP1. Now, Titleist have done some work that they're saying is with polymer insert, in terms of they've worked with an R&D department at the ball plant at Titleist to work with a similar material that we use in the balls to try and get that dampening and acoustics of this particular club where they probably want it a little bit more dampening, and I probably agree with that a little bit, but it's, by all means, it's not a very muted sound. It's still that pretty loud sort of crack to it. And again, not absolutely flush, but hitting the target very nicely and getting some decent distance with that particular shot. Okay, that was a little bit low off the face, but again, that is up and away. Seems to be hitting the target very nicely and a very similar distance. So forgiveness wise, it's doing as you'd expect to do for this type of iron. Okay, that's T300. We've hit AP1. Let's go and look at some numbers in a little bit more detail against those two clubs. Okay, so just before we look at the data, what I want maybe to look at here is just the dispersion rings there. So the red was the AP1, the blue was the T300. So a little bit more consistent with T300 in terms of accuracy as well as front to back dispersion there, which is quite good. So I just want to show you that. So just moving to the numbers. Okay, so numbers here, so AP1 on the top and the red, T300 at the bottom. So average ball speed, 127.4 against 128.7. So we know we should get an increase of ball speed because we've got 2 degrees stronger on the loft. So we've got to take that into account. Yes, Titleist will talk a lot about extra ball speed off the club face. How much is I think it's really tough to accurately measure because you've got strike to weigh into it as well. So you know, you'd have to really run that over a series of a lot of shots, multiple rounds in a way, and it'd be, I think it'd be small percentages now because they're very much maxed out, aren't they? I would say, these irons. But so probably seeing that more through the loft change more than maybe coming off that particular club face. Launching identical at 16.8, so again you'd expect that lower loft to launch lower, but it doesn't. So again, there's a little bit of CG placement in and around the head, possibly just changing that, which still gives it a very high ball flight. So look, jumping across the column a little bit here, you see peak height 36 and 37 there with T300, so fraction higher on its flight with T300. Spins sort of surprised me a little bit, so they're both averaged at is exactly the same at 6.161, which is a good spin number for a strong lofted iron, especially the 29 degree and the T300s. It's not coming out super low. Obviously got that first one, which was 6.6, which was pretty high there for 29 degree. But then you see coming down to 5.6, 5.8. They're the ones that cut slightly sort of more toe side of the club. You see just pulling that little bit of spin off. But averaging at 6.1, as we know, strike will move that around more than anything. So distance wise, 181 carry against 183 carry, 2 yards in it. We've got 2 degrees less loft. It's probably taking that into account. Okay guys, so there we go. There's the AP1 in 718 range going up against its replacement, which is the T300. So as I say, it's in that more forgiving area. Would you change, you've got AP1 in your bag in last year's model, would you change up into the T300? I probably, if you're after 3 yards, then yeah, or 2 yards, yeah, but it's not a lot, is it? I don't think there's a massive change there. That little bit of extra or less loft in the T300 is what's giving that a little bit more distance there, to be honest. What I would say though, in terms of looks, the T300 is better looking, definitely, and sound, it is better sound in there. So I think Titleist did a good job with the acoustics of that and the look of it and the shape of it. Even though it is in that bigger package, it is a much better looking package in my opinion. The back of it probably wouldn't agree, but I'm not interested in what it looks like sat in the bag like that. You know, I'm more interested in what it looks like down by the golf ball, and I think probably most golfers would agree with that. Let me know your thoughts as always. Is it worth upgrading? Comment down below. Have you got AP1 718s at the moment? Would you look at training up and going into the T300? Love to hear your thoughts as always, so do fire your comments down below. I'll try and reply to as many of you as possible. If you enjoy the content I'm putting out there and you haven't subscribed, please do so. I very much appreciate it. It just allows me to get access to more equipment earlier, to get the reviews out for your viewing. If you want to follow me up on social media platforms, then please do so, both Instagram and Twitter, and the handles there are @MNGolfCoach, and hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.